playing, ayy. BM to the AM, ayy.
All right, we are live. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to the first live podcast for Passion and Faith. I am your host, Tashani Whitlow. I am joined by the ever so gracious, intelligent Van Adams of Van Adams Sports. It is such an honor and a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are such, and we're just jumping right in, we're not wasting any time. You are such a powerhouse. I mean, from the moment I met you at my colleague Tina Servasio, you also know Tina. Tina's our sports anchor. You just have such a commanding presence about you.
Thank you.
You do. It's almost electric. And looking at your resume, I know why. I mean, seriously, you are the president and founder of Van Adams Sports, over 2 decades, sports marketing, business development, athlete engagement. You were named one of the top 25 leading women entrepreneurs and business owners, Crain's New York Most Notable Women in Sports Business List, the founder of Gathering on the Greens, the leading golf executive experience for women. Can you tell me what is the driving motivation behind your success?
Discipline. Discipline and a desire to achieve, right? And so you have to earn a living. I always say do it doing something that you enjoy so it doesn't feel like work, but also have the skill and the expertise to deliver what you say it is you want to do.
And where did that come from for you?
I think it was just always there. I mean, just thinking back to childhood as a Girl Scout, I was like the top cookie seller, like just all the things, you know. I was entrepreneurial before I even knew what an entrepreneur was. And I think sometimes that's just innate in people. And I worked in corporate before I launched my own business. So I have both sides, you know, of the table. But I always knew I was going to do my own thing.
And a fun fact, I learned this. You mentioned Girl Scout cookies.
Yes.
She is a phenomenal pastry chef.
Yes, baking is my therapy, yes.
So baking is your therapy when you are not in the boardroom or dealing with your clients.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about, you started Gathering on the Greens, which I'm really looking forward to experiencing, a golf experience for executive women. You've been doing that since 2012. What made you start that? What was the inspiration behind that?
You know, women were being left out of the conversation. They didn't know how to play golf. They didn't know the rules of the game. They didn't know how to engage, but their male peers were. And I worked in a space, you know, athlete representation, producing events from coast to coast. We had a lot of sponsors. And a lot of the decision makers signing the checks to sponsor these celebrity tournaments and the fundraisers were women. And they weren't showing up to the events that they were sponsoring. And I'm like, something's wrong here. Like, why aren't you coming? Well, you know, women sometimes, you know, you've heard the expression that before we do anything, we have to make sure it's 200% correct, right? And so they're like, well, I don't know how to play. But there's a dinner. There's opportunities for you to engage. You can just ride on a cart. And so that was kind of the launch pad for me, wanting to change that narrative for so many women.
Well, speaking of changing that narrative, you started that 2012. Can you talk about how many lives have been impacted? Because it's not just golfing. These women are also networking and making serious connections.
Yeah, it's the premier destination for executive women in leadership. It's that next level for them. Like, they have the skill, they have the expertise, they know what they're doing, but it's the soft skill and the relationship building. It's not just networking, you have followers and contacts. It's how well do you know them and how well do they know you, right? And we know that in business, a lot of your opportunities and decisions that are made about you, your promotion, your acceleration will come in conversations when you're not in the room. But if no one knows you to know what your interests are, what you're really good at, they don't speak up for you, right? And so some of that is on the woman, you know, in this case, right? It's on the woman to say what she wants to do, what she's capable of. And I always say it's not bragging if you did it, right? If you
true.
Don't exaggerate what you did.
Yes.
But if you did that, if you closed the deal, if you changed the culture, the dynamic, you should stand up and say that. And so when you do that, you will get those sponsors, right? Which is different from a mentor. So you have the sponsors who they see opportunities and they're speaking up for you, right? And so it's the same on the golf course. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been invited to a business meeting, and it's not at a bistro. It's meet me at my club, right? And so I'm at the club and they're talking and they're introducing you to all kinds of people, board members, CEOs of companies, right? And those people are then getting to know you in a different way. And when they hear of opportunities, they think, you know what, I think that Van Adams does that. Like that doesn't come from just me having your business card. That comes from some level of engagement. And so for Gathering on the Greens, golf is only the backdrop. We have professional development, we have wellness opportunities. We're really big on the movement and the stress release. So this is not just, you know, a club membership where you come for a clinic and then, you know, you play some golf or you hit some balls. No, we're on real golf courses. We do them coast to coast. We're expanding internationally and into the collegiate space. And the women go through a day that is intentionally curated for them.
And not only are you doing that for yourself, for Gathering on the Greens, but you're also doing that on the corporate level as well, where companies, can I name drop a couple? I know Amex is one.
So our companies, we have a lot of Fortune 500s, Fortune 100s. We have some academia, nonprofits, private sector. They come to us, you know, they're the top CEOs, they're talent, you know, they're recognizable faces. And for that, we don't do a lot of promotion. We have a lot of referrals, right? A lot of B2B, but it's also, it's not that it's exclusive, but it is private because they're team building. We're going through different workshops about skills, and it can be a range of things from branding to culture shift to performance metrics, the wellness activities that we do within the space. You know, we're talking about how swing and body mechanics help relieve stress and reduce your cortisol, you know, levels, like things, you know, for women that really drive us. And so we're having these experiences, and we're not there to just film and tape and put it on social for them.
You're here to make connections.
A lot of our clients, they have multiple offices. And so sometimes we'll be a part of their executive retreats or their annual meetings. And there are a lot of people who they work together, but they don't know each other.
And she can't name drop, guys. That's why she's not saying any names.
They've never seen each other, right? It's like, but you're on email all the time.
I want to go back to that lovely introduction I gave you, because I gave you that for a reason. You and I had lunch, and we had a very organic conversation, and I mentioned I'm awful at networking. And so you, on the other hand, when I said you command presence, can you just talk and give some advice to our viewers on how you can walk in a room, not shrink, but own it and own your space? You mentioned, you know, there's a difference between bragging and not being humble, but if you did it, speak on it.
Yeah. I think, you know, when you're in spaces, I always operate from a place of intentionality, but also from a space of observing who's in the room. Right. And so I think when you talk about networking, sometimes it has a negative connotation to it because
it's dreadful almost.
It's people don't like to do it. You want to do it, but then if you go alone, you don't know anyone. You don't know how to kind of break the ice. And if you go with someone, you're not really meeting anyone else because you stay with
you're chatty.
You stay with the person.
It's true.
But I always say, you know, we only have so much time, you know, in a day, right? Time is our biggest commodity. So if you're going to go to a networking event, then what's your agenda? Who's the group sponsoring it? And how does that parallel to what you want to achieve? And who you're looking to meet. If you're looking to meet people in finance, then obviously you need to go somewhere where a lot of people in finance are going to be. But when you're there, I always say make it a point to find 3 people that you don't know and just say hello. The other thing with networking is people tend to ask for things, right? It's like, oh, I want to meet this person so they can give me something. That's not networking. Networking is a reciprocal relationship building environment, right? And so I always say lead with understanding who you just met and how you can add value, because that's more memorable than the guy or the girl who's just asking you for something.
Van, I haven't met a successful person who does not have a story of adversity in their background. And you don't have to get too in the weeds of your personal business. But can you give us a situation where a setback actually became a setup for you?
Oh gosh, there's like many, right? Because
I love that. Just give us one.
There's so many through the journey, and I think that's also a misconception, right? People see the end product; they don't see the years
The grind.
of work that went into it, and having a high tolerance for hearing no.
Yes.
Right? I sell people, I sell athletes, I market them. Marketing is a function of selling, right? I hear no an awful lot, but you can't hold on to the no, right? And so, I would say something I think that was adverse for me is when I left corporate. At the time I was working for Sports Illustrated, and I left the organization and was looking for the next opportunity. And every door I knocked on, I was either overqualified or underqualified. And I remember thinking, well, if I'm overqualified, this should be great, right?
Yeah, it should be a no-brainer for you to hire me.
Underqualified, can we work this out?
Yes. I need a job.
So I need a job. But then that's where my blessing in disguise came from, right? Because then there were athletes that I'd worked with at different teams and things that I had worked with prior who came to me. I'll never forget, a guy came to me and said, hey, I need help with my golf classic. Can you do that? And so I was like, sure. And then I did that. And at that outing, there were 3 or 4 other former athletes who said,
this.
can you do this for me? And one thing about the athlete environment, they're very competitive. So it's like, I want this times 10, right?
And you're like, oh, bigger budget.
Times 10. And so, but I was still job hunting. And they were still saying, well, we're looking for someone a little more junior. We're looking for someone a little more senior. So I was kind of in that gap where a lot of women find themselves in the middle. And this is true for most industries. When you get to the middle of your career, you either pivot out or you level up, right? You will change industries or you will keep accelerating. And so once I looked back, maybe 5-6 months had gone by and I had clients, right? That I didn't really pursue because I'm still looking for a job.
And didn't even view them as clients.
It was just people that I knew, relationships, that I had built, and some of their agents were calling. They were like, we don't really do that part, but can you do this for him? And so once I looked at all of that, I'm like, well, maybe I should take the leap now. And that's how Van Adams Sports Group was founded.
I love that.
But that was kind of an accidental pathway to it. So listen, you can always take, some of your messes or what you think is a setback and position it for something else. I really think it's how you frame it.
Definitely. I think this might be our last question. We have some questions?
Yeah, you got a question from Mike Mencken.
All right. Wait, okay. Here we are. Hi, Van. What's the biggest key to building long-term trust with athletes?
Yeah, the biggest key is your integrity and your work ethic.
Go back to that word again.
Yeah, it's your integrity and your work ethic. Athletes they're very, like I was saying before, they're very competitive, right? But they don't trust easily, right? As most celebrities, like they don't trust easily. And so that's something that you really have to hold in high regard. If you're working with them, you're there to work with them. You're not there to be a fan. And then your work speaks for itself because, you don't have to say anything. People can see who did the work. And everyone wants to be around a winner who did the work.
And there it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So one last question, and then Van, what keeps you grounded? Because you got a busy, your day, your world is busy.
Yeah.
I try to get an appointment with her, and I got to book it like weeks in advance, just lunch.
Yeah, you know what, I'm like calendar focused. I think what keeps me grounded though is really my faith. Just knowing, to all that I've been given, much is required.
Absolutely.
I also am keenly aware when I entered the industry, there weren't many women who looked like me. There weren't many women, right? And so that has a big level of responsibility. And I don't take that lightly. I don't speak for all women. I don't speak for all women of color. But I am also very aware that my missteps could also be someone else's delay. And so I think that keeps me grounded, and I take nothing for granted. The world moves at a very fast pace. Like
Yes.
things can be great, and then all of a sudden we get a pandemic. Like things happen.
They do.
So I try to go day by day, but I am a planner. So sorry about the calendar. I'm a planner, but I just try to live in the moment as much as I can, and bake. And then
bake.
go swing a golf club.
And there it is. How can people find you? And if they want to get involved with Gathering
Yeah.
on the Green, how can they do that?
Yeah, it's gatheringonthegreens.org, Gathering on the Greens, all social, and I'm Van Adams Sports on all social.
All right,
Yeah.
Van, it was a
Thank you.
pleasure.
It's a pleasure being
Thank
here.
you so much. All right, so you're in the building. We got Troy Millings.
Hey, how you doing?
We also have Rashad Bilal. Thank you. It's a pleasure. So funny thing is, I actually met you guys in Detroit. We were at an event, or maybe I was at an event and y'all were headlining. And I was like, who are these guys? Everyone was going crazy. And this had to be 4 years ago.
Okay.
And to think back, you all started the podcast Earn Your Leisure 6 years ago. Media conglomerate. You got Investfest, the largest financial literacy event in the country, 25,000 people a day. Steve Harvey, Robert F. Smith, the billionaire, speaking. You guys really came in at such a pivotal time and almost disrupted the industry. What gave you the guts to take that leap?
Just really seeing an opening, social media, especially at that time, I feel like it wasn't as saturated as it is now. There's still a lot of opportunity on social media, but, just looking at the landscape and seeing that financial literacy, the way that we speak and the swag that we could put on it, it wasn't actually being delivered. So we saw it as an opportunity to democratize business, investing, financial literacy, like you said, disrupt the industry. And that was the original thesis, was to blend like pop culture with business. And that's what we did. So yeah, that was the idea behind it, to kind of, talk about business but make it fun, really. And we did that, and it's been off to the running ever since.
Yeah, I like to say that our mission was purpose-driven. People look at it now and they're like, oh, financial literacy makes so much sense, but like his career prior to this was a financial advisor. My career path was a teacher.
New York City,
Yeah,
public
yeah,
school teacher.
the DOE.
Shout out.
Shout out to the DOE. I was in the Bronx teaching. But inside of that, you realize what is not being taught to the youngest population, and obviously the future of our country. And like you said, it was disruptive, right? Like if we could teach these kids at a young age about the discipline of how money works, imagine what they'll look like in the future. And we realized quickly, not only did the kids not understand financial literacy, but their parents didn't know either. And so it became an opportunity for us to say, okay, there's something here that we can explore.
I want to know, because now you also have Earn Your Leisure University, thousands of members. You're smiling. What is going through your mind? Because I want to know, is this the vision that you had for yourself when you all started Earn Your Leisure?
I think the vision originally was just to add value to people's lives.
There
right?
it
Like
is.
we
Service,
didn't,
being of service.
being of service, right? And from both of our careers, we were doing that already. And when you realize there's something that's missing, you could either complain about it or you can become a solution for it. And so we figured, based on the knowledge that we had, and we thought that people were kind of having these conversations and realized that they weren't, we said, there's something for us to do here. So when I hear people talking about the statistics, it's interesting because we're doing the work. And so we never, look back and say, all right, we did this and this many downloads. It's like there's still more work to do just because the message and the mission is not complete yet, right? There's still so many people who are lacking these services and not lacking this information. And so every day it's like, how do we get better? How do we get better? How do we get another person to figure out that this mission is important?
Why do you think it is that you said these people? What people are you referring to, and why do you think that there's a disadvantage when it comes to financial literacy?
What people are you referring to?
Oh, so well,
You said I defer to him.
When I say these people, I'm talking about our community, the community that we directly come from and impact the most, right?
So
like,
folks that look like us.
folks that look like us. We always talk about financial literacy as something that is for everybody, right? And our message is for everybody, but the people who gravitated toward it the most are the people who need it the most, and that could be white, black, it doesn't matter where you come from. The fact that we speak in the dialect that we do, the fact that we come from the neighborhoods that we do, people relate to that and they see themselves in us. And when we look at traditional finance, it necessarily didn't look like guys like us, right? And so we have the advantage of saying we're the everyday person, because we are. We come from humble beginnings, we come from a small town, but we come with the proposition of adding value every day.
Where are you guys from?
We're from Greenburgh, New York. It's a small town, like right outside of the Bronx, like a working class community. So, yeah, I think that was part of the whole point, is that it's like a real family-oriented place. So we all grew up together. Like, me and him, we went to middle school together, high school. Then we have siblings. So Earn Your Leisure is really like a family-based business. AB, who was our COO, he comes from the same high school that we went to. The partner went to high school. So everybody that we really employ or work with is pretty much family, like 20 of us, like, different family people, cousins, stuff like that. So that plays a major part in the dynamic also, is that, it's more than just business, it's personal relationships, family. And I think that kind of bleeds to the authenticity of it. Like, people can actually realize that it means more than just starting something just to go viral.
Because you all have certainly done that. I mean, 50 million downloads for Earn Your Leisure, the podcast, is just amazing. But let's talk about Investfest, because that's going down next month.
Yeah.
You guys have some really good news I want you to share with our audience members. You guys are giving away seed money. You're also giving away scholarships. Briefly tell us about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. We have a pitch competition. We did it last year in the honor of the late, great Nipsey Hussle with his family. And this year, it's $125,000. And
wait,
Paul,
did you say $125,000?
$125K.
What do I need to pitch? Can I pitch the podcast?
Anybody with a tech-based company. We really wanted to focus on tech this year. We know that that's what's driving the economy, what's driving the world. So we know that our community gets the lowest amount of venture capital, especially when it comes to tech. So
I think it's like 1%.
Less
right?
than 1%.
Less than
I think.
1%.
So we teamed up with Paul Judge, who is a very high-powered venture capital expert in Atlanta. He's funded multiple businesses that have 9-figure exits. So him and his team is actually spearheading it. And we have some celebrity judges as well. We have Jaylen Brown from the Celtics. We have 2 Chainz. So we wanted to really make sure that we put people in a position to win, not just get the money. They're also going to be mentored by Paul and his team. So, getting the money is one thing, but we got to put them on a pathway to be successful. So that's open to anybody that has any tech-based company. I think every company should have a tech-based component to it.
No doubt, especially in this day and age.
Exactly.
100%.
So we highly encourage people to submit, and we're looking forward to seeing the people on stage and looking forward to crowning the winner.
Now, how do they submit? They have to be at Investfest,
Yeah,
right?
all the information is at investfest.com. You have to be at Investfest, and then it's like a one page that you go through. You submit all the information for the company, and then they're going to pick around 30 people to have like the first round of calls.
Okay.
They'll make phone calls with the people and have interviews, and then from there, it's going to be 5 people that's selected that will make it to the main stage actually during Investfest. And on the main stage is everybody. So you got 10,000 people that's going to be there as well. So it's a fun situation, because you're not only pitching to the judges, but you never know who's in the audience.
That
and
part.
Even if you don't win, somebody else might like your idea. Somebody might have a business partner. Somebody might have money for you as well. And you never know. So it's very competitive, but we wanted to make it fun and interactive as well.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So the scholarships, can you talk about that as well? Because that's a separate component to the seed money, right?
Yeah, so in terms of the scholarships, one of the things we're big on is giving back. So obviously the pitch competition gives back to a company, but we wanted to involve the kids too, right?
That's you, right?
And that's
there you
us.
go.
So it always started in our community. And so the original initiative was the program that we started maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago now. We wanted those kids to have the opportunity to see what business looks like, what networking looks like, what entrepreneurship looks like, what the innovations in AI and Bitcoin. We wanted them to be around those talks at a young age. And so we've been fortunate enough to partner with some really great entrepreneurs that are sponsoring kids to come down to Investfest this year. We have a conglomerate from the Bronx, shout out to Councilman Riley, who's bringing kids down. So we want to make sure that kids are around this language at a very young age, and hopefully it inspires them to bring it back to their communities and start having real conversations in their homes and their schools and so on.
How many scholarships are you all going to be giving away?
So
And can you give us a figure?
So we're bringing down 50 kids from our community.
Wow.
Flights, hotels,
All covered.
All covered.
That's awesome.
Last year, the Bronx they brought about 100 kids, and then what happens when they get there is they get to have pitch a business idea to us, and we give away some money to start their dreams. And so, the big stage is for the 125,000, but our young entrepreneurs that have dreams and aspirations, we're giving away for them too.
I love that because for a lot of kids in our community, they've never traveled outside of their neighborhood blocks. So for them to not only go to the airport, first of all, pack a bag, go to the airport, go through security, get on a plane, get off, go to a hotel, and then you're surrounded by thousands of people who are not only successful but look like you.
Right. Yeah. I think that's why it's powerful too, especially in Atlanta. That's like the mecca of black business.
Absolutely.
So to bring the kids, it's a good experience just to get, like you said, just to travel, period.
Yes.
But then to travel, and then you're surrounded by people. You get to see Magic Johnson, like, firsthand, right? You get to see Steve Harvey firsthand. You get to see Issa Rae firsthand. So that's very inspirational. And just regular small business owners, right? Being in the marketplace and just to be around that level of entrepreneurship, I think it's inspiring for people to see. So sometimes you have to see things to believe it.
Absolutely.
I think what it even adds to it is that the people from our neighborhood, they decided, hey, we're going to create businesses because we need to be down there to promote it. And so when you ask, like, why I always smile, because I'm always satisfied with the ambition that these young adults have. And having somebody come to Investfest for the first time, seeing it and realize there's nothing like it, it's one of those feelings like, yo, we've done something here.
Is that what keeps you grounded?
Yeah, I think, I was listening to the conversation before. Faith obviously keeps us grounded. Our community keeps us grounded. My family definitely does.
Oh, I'm sure.
I tell you, like, when I go back home, I'm sure they're going to be like, my wife's going to say, did you bring the garbage pail in? Or my mom's going to ask me, can you print this email for me? So,
Yeah.
we're treated, I can speak for myself. I'm very much treated very the same. I'm Detroit from 2015. My responsibilities to the world have increased, but my responsibilities to the family, have pretty much stayed the same.
And how about you, Rashad? Is that what keeps you grounded? Is it family? You said you have siblings. Is it sisters saying you ain't all that, or just kind of checking you? We had to do that to our brothers.
Nah, just keeping a daily routine. Like just if I got to take my son to basketball practice, or just working out, or so I think just doing the same thing that I've always done hasn't really changed too much. Like we might be in LA, we might be in Paris, but you come back and you still stay on that daily regimen, just waking up and just really working, really, like, following that work schedule. I think that's important. So that always keeps me grounded, because it's like, there's always more to do.
So we got some comments, and a couple people that are like, okay, help us get our money together, T. So that's where you all come in. There's so many of us who haven't invested, and I'll be completely transparent. I have some money away, and I don't even know how it's working. I'll be honest with you. And
what define
wait,
away?
why are you laughing
No,
at me? I'm being honest.
Like away in an account, away where?
It's in investments, and I get the profit statement, so
Okay.
I like know what's it doing, but I don't know what it's doing.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So like, what's the first step for us? Because I feel like I've taken that leap, right, where I'm investing. I can say I got some investments, but I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I think the first thing is to educate yourself. So, we have a bunch of shows on like how to get started in stocks, right? Like bare minimum. We wrote a book, You Deserve to Be Rich, which talks about financial literacy at the bare basic core as far as real estate, stocks. You have to have a core understanding. I think that builds confidence, because you can take that approach as far as like, have a 401k and then just have money taken out of you, or you have a financial advisor, and that's not a bad way to go, but you always want to know exactly what's going on, right? Because I feel that ultimately your money is your responsibility.
So true.
So you never just want to put something that you work so hard for in somebody else's hands and just not have anything to do with it at all. So, just learning the basics, right? Learning what an index fund is, learning what an ETF is, learning, what dollar cost averaging means, right? Like, these are things that's not really difficult, but like anything, you just kind of have to get in the routine. So I would definitely start with reading a few different books. How to Make Money in Stocks. That's a great like intro to stocks. And we have a weekly show called Market Mondays, where we talk about stocks and investing every single week. That's a great show to watch, to kind of get into the flow.
We had your colleague on. Good day.
Ian Dunlap.
Yes.
Yeah, brother. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
A few weeks ago.
Yep.
Exactly. So just making it a part of your day, whether it's reading for 30 minutes, whether it's listening to one podcast a week, whether it's reading one book a month. Like, you don't have to go full-fledged Wall Street, but you incorporate little things into your schedule, and before you know it, you'll start to actually understand it a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a living testament. So Are you still my financial advisor? I think he is. Yeah. Well, I was his first client, but that was something that he told me, right? Like he can manage this, the account for me, but I should educate myself, whether it was life insurance or mutual funds. And, I've taken the tools, like, all right, that's great advice. Started reading myself, and obviously what we do now professionally is helping people learn about that. And so you want to make sure that you know where every dollar is going because you're working for it, right? Like you have to show up for the money. Now the money's working for you, but you got to make sure you know where it's going every day.
I remember I lost a good amount. And a good amount to me, I'm not even going to go there and say what it was. But I was like, oh, I'm trying to do the right thing. I could have brought it back. That's where my mind went. Because let me not say we, it's like I'd rather see my money. I know where it is.
Yeah, a lot of people think like that. But the good thing with the market is that you really never lose until you take the money out, right? So if you have $100,000 into a stock market, and let's say the stock market crashes and it goes to $70,000, right? Now that's a loss on paper. You might look at it like I just lost $30,000.
Yeah.
Like you start panicking, but usually, if you're in good investments, you hold it long term, it's going to come back. We saw that in April. So when the tariffs got announced, stock market crashed. A lot of people panicked. They took money out of their 401k. Right now, 3 months later, it's at an all-time high. So if you just would have had patience and just waited. So that's really important to just, because it's definitely tough.
It's a long man's
to
game.
watch your money go down. Nobody wants to watch their money go down.
Yes.
But you definitely have to look at it like this is a long-term game. I got to have patience, and I do not lose unless I take money out. So just keep the money in, be patient, and wait it out.
Yeah, it's a long man's game. It's a disciplined game. I always tell people, put your seatbelt on, right? If you ever been on a roller coaster, you know there's a dip, but before you get to the dip, you got to go rise to the peak, and that's how the market moves. There's going to be peaks, there's going to be ebbs and flows, but if you're in it long term, time is always on your side.
What's a hot stock for someone who has never invested? They see you guys, they follow your journey, and they're like, I want to get in the game. What can they do today?
I think that the hottest stock is NVIDIA right now. It's the first company.
We just spoke about NVIDIA, the AI chip.
Yeah. I mean, the first company to hit a $4 trillion market cap.
Which is insane.
Which is insane when you think about 3 years ago, they weren't even $1 trillion market cap. But that tells you about the power of AI and the AI revolution that we're in. And so NVIDIA is always going to be at the forefront. Microsoft, obviously, with its connection with OpenAI. Taiwan Semiconductor, which manufactures the chips for NVIDIA.
Okay.
Broadcom and streaming services for sure are big this year. The leader in that space is Netflix. So these are all companies that we know. Amazon, we were just talking about Amazon. It's Amazon Prime Week. Well, you could be a customer or you could also be a owner of shares in Amazon. So
there it is.
We know the things that we should invest in, but we're so used to being consumers of those things rather than being owners.
Okay, so we got a question. SJM, I'd love to hear their input. What's your advice for building real financial freedom when you're living in a high-cost city where just surviving can eat up most of your income? That's a great question.
For sure. I think you have to force yourself to save. A lot of times people look at investing as like optional. And it's like, okay, at the end, if I have anything left over, then you're never going to have anything left over.
That's so true.
It's just like your cell phone, right? Like no matter what, you have to pay your cell phone, right? You have to keep your lights on. You have to make sure that you have gas in your car. So you have to allocate enough money to put away that you're forcing yourself to put away money. And you can add to it. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but you gotta do that. And then you got to cut back. You have to make some hard decisions, right? As far as budget cuts, you have to look. First of all, you have to know your budget.
There it is.
90% of people don't even know how much money is coming in, coming out. They're just winging it, right? And that's a recipe for disaster. So you really have to look and say, okay, how much? You'll be surprised how much money you might be spending on lunch or coffee, right? And it's like, okay, well, I could save $200 a month just by packing my own lunch, tuna fish, right? Like it's some sacrifices that you have to make. You live in New York City, it's expensive. Like, you go to just to have lunch, before you know it, you're spending hundreds of dollars a month on things that could have been avoided. So I think it's that, and then also finding a way to have extra income. I feel like one source of income is too close to none. And even if you have a 9-to-5 job, there's opportunities to make money outside of that. That's one of the beautiful things about the internet. So look to see what you're passionate at, look to see what you're good at. But I think that you have to have multiple streams of income. There's really no job security these days. And even if you have a job, it's probably not enough to survive in a major city anyway. So you got to figure that out.
Yeah, once you start to learn the discipline of money, you start to see where your money's going. Then, like I said, you obviously know the companies that you should be going to. Like if it's lunch and people going to Chipotle, Well, how long is that line? Is that line like that every day? There must be a reason it's like that, whether it's McDonald's or Sweet Greens or people are dictating where the trends are going, and most of the time it's the workforce. And so if you calculate where the money's going, you can say, all right, well, rather than buying lunches, maybe I just invest in the company, right? Because over the long term, if that trend continues, they're going to be paying for my lunch anyway.
Okay. I want to get in 2 really quick topics, and then I know we got to go. You didn't shout your own book out when you said the books to read. What's up with that?
Well, I think I did. I said, You Deserve to Be Rich. We talked about the how it's like the baseline for financial literacy. But yeah, definitely the You Deserve to Be Rich, that was kind of like, it was always in the vision board to write a book, but now it's just the right time. So we put together really a manual.
And a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah, we should start with that.
Huge. That's huge. Right? We're talking 6 years.
Yeah.
You give me hope. First Live, New York Times bestseller.
I think of that as like 6 years of questioning that we got on a daily basis. Every time we go somewhere now, people want to ask us financial advice. They want to ask us about stocks. And so we could answer them, but it's tough to answer 1,000 people a day. We said, let's create a manuscript, a blueprint, like you said, so that people can always use this as a reference, even if we're not there.
All right, great. And they can buy that at any Barnes & Noble, Amazon, anywhere books are sold.
Absolutely.
Anywhere where books are sold.
Okay. One of my last questions. You guys are doing some great work in Africa. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. We've been in Ghana a lot, and that's one of the places. We've been in a lot of different places in Africa, but Ghana specifically, we're building a residential neighborhood there, and it's on 400. The grand master plan is 400 acres, but we're starting with 40 acres.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And the first phase is going to be 40 units. The total phase is going to be 400 units. And the idea was to really mix with local Ghanaians and people from the diaspora. A lot of people, especially Ghana, kind of become the gateway to the continent. So people go there during December, they party, they have a good time, but it's not really sustainable for like long-term relationships with the continent and even for the Ghanaian economy. So we wanted to make something where people can come in October or August or April, right? And even if they're not living there full time, they can rent it out Airbnb and just have a connection more tangible than just coming. It's good to, that's the first phase of actually just coming and partying and just, understanding the culture. But we wanted to kind of bridge that gap. And housing is the universal need. Everybody needs to live somewhere.
No doubt.
There's a housing shortage in Accra. So we felt like that was something that would be beneficial for both parties, on the Ghanaian side and on, people from the diaspora all over. So that's a project that we've been working on with our partners in Ghana. And is going really well. It's got a lot of good feedback, and we'll be talking about that at Investfest also. So we highly encourage people to look into Africa. We just came back. We was in Rwanda. We was in Kenya.
I heard it's like Africa's like the fastest growing business continent, or I'm probably not saying that.
I mean, the fastest growing continent, period. You look at the youth population. 80% of the population is under 21. 80% of that is under 18.
Wow. They
said in 10 years, one out of every 5 people in the world will be on the African continent. It's one of the only continents with a positive birth rate. And of course, we know all of the minerals and everything that Africa has always had for a long time. But tech too. Kenya specifically, it's become like the tech hub of Africa. A lot of great entrepreneurs are popping up, and there's a lot of innovation that's happening all over the continent. So it's definitely something that we're very, very interested in. And every time we go, it's always been great reception. So no matter where, on the east side, west side, south, it's always been positive whenever we're in Africa. So we always look forward to that.
All right. Lastly, let the folks know, Investfest, they can still get tickets. Let's shout that out and also throw out those dates.
Yeah, everybody can get tickets to Investfest at investfest.com. The dates are August 22nd through the 24th in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Georgia World Congress Center. Over 60,000 people will be there during the weekend. You're talking about networking. You're talking about entrepreneurship. You're talking about AI activations. Everything that you can think of in terms of business and entrepreneurship will be there. So you should be there, and you should be there as well. All
right. Maybe I will show up. No. I'd love to attend. I think it'd be great because I do need to get my finances in check as well.
I know.
Financial
We're going to
literacy
sit
is
right
key.
next to you, and we're going to figure out where the money is at and where it's going.
No, that's too much pressure. That's too much pressure. Earn your leisure. Rashad, Troy, thank you so much for joining us. Van, she's still here. She stuck around. This was our first
and
live.
Congratulations to you on the first show. Congratulations.
you.
We got a studio audience here, y'all. Clap it
Yes,
up.
we
Thank
do.
you.
They were shady at times
A
when they
little
laughed about
bit, a
eating the
little bit.
tuna. It was like, come on, you got to sacrifice.
He has
But
tuna in his lunchbox right now.
Nothing wrong with tuna.
Thank you guys. Matt, I don't know which camera I'm looking at. Okay. We're going to leave on the 3-shot. Thank you so much for joining us for our first live podcast of Passion and Faith. I'm your host, Tashani Whitlow. You know where you can find me. Good Day Wake Up, Monday through Friday, 4:30 to 7 in the morning. There we are. That's where you can find me. And then now, our new home, Passion and Faith. Have a fabulous day and a great weekend.
Just let them know you'll regret it if you don't. Gotta say what's on your mind now. Just let it go.